Does Dr. Jnanadas sir came joined? So. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam. Madam,
Sir, you can start sharing your screen.
yes, madam, yes, madam, just a minute.
Balaji, sir. Balaji, sir, please.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Sir, Balaji, sir, introduction.
someone will.
Sir, whether you are able to visualize my screen?
Yes, sir. We can able to see the screen, sir.
Okay.
Good morning to all. Let me start now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Good morning to all. I welcome today's session speaker, Dr. Nanadas Ramachandran. He has received his undergraduate degree in electrical engineer and master degree in power system engineering with distinction in 1991 and 1993 respectively. He has obtained the PhD degree in the Department of Electrical Electronics Engineering, Pondicherry Engineering College, Pondicherry, India in July 2005. He is working as a teaching faculty in Pondicherry Engineering College since 1996 and currently he is professor of the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department. He was the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering in Iowa State University, Ames, USA from March 2007 to March 2008 to carry out his postgraduate study under the BICAS fellowships allowed by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is a recipient of postgraduate research award by UGC India to carry out the research in the restructured power market for 2 years with funding of 30 lakhs. He published 66 research articles in the journals. He was awarded a gold medal by Institute of Engineering for the best published paper in the power system area. Two of his other papers received the merits credit certificate by the Institute of Engineering. He has guided 7 PhDs and currently guiding 3 research scholars in the power systems restructuring and smart grid area. He has organized 2 IICT sponsored FDPA and 1 TEQIP sponsored FDA in Pondicherry Engineering College. He also organized an international conference on organized an international conference on energy engineering and national conference on electrical machines and power system. He completed 2 AICT sponsored research promotional scheme projects in the power system restructure area value of 16 lakhs. He is the department member of the executing of DST sponsored FIST project in college value of 100 lakhs. He is the committee member of procurement of smart meter and implementation of smart grid at Pondicherry City in collaboration with Pondicherry Electricity Board of and Power Grid Corporation of India. He is a member of IEEE Madras section, fellow member of Institute of Engineering, and life member of ISTE. His field of interest is power system provisions, reactive power pricing and management, voltage stability, concept of power system restructuring, facts, smart grid, and distribution pricing methodology. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
To take the session, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning to all the participants. First, I thank SRM Valli Group to give the opportunity to share some of my views in the solar integration of smart distribution grid, sponsored by Atal program of AICT here. Right. So today the session is on what are the challenges we are facing when you are integrating the solar in the smart distribution grid. Especially in the transmission, there is no issues at all. But in the case of the distribution, because the government is ruling us to integrate the solar, especially in the case of the distribution here. Every home has the solar, or every industry must have a solar, or every IT park must have a solar, like that they are ruling us in order to generate the power locally and utilizing it. So it will save us to transmit the power from a long distance power station to the load end here. Always it is better to share the power at the load center. Is better one here. So in this scenario, I will touch upon some power electronics concept also. What are the power electronics bugs in real-time bugs in connecting the solar and how to solve it, like that. That is my overall presentation. Anyhow, I'm Jnanadas from faculty from EEE Department of Pondicherry Engineering College. Okay. Yeah. The overall presentation is first I will discuss about what is meant by a smart distribution grid. And what are the loads distinctive from the transmission, how the distribution loads are classified, then how to integrate in the solar. We cannot connect the solar as it is, right? So what are the problems we are facing in the solar, real-time network, and how our smart meter operation is helpful to read the solar reading as well as the power grid reading, and how to do this analytics of data. Using this analytics of data, how we can monitor the power components here. Power components means how we can monitor the transformer loading, like that, because as soon as we connected the solar, you are reducing the load connected with the transformer, or in some cases you are increasing the burden of the transformer. So in that case, how to do the analytics of the data using the solar integration. Then next portion is we can cluster transmission and distribution pricing using the real-time case studies, what we have done it at Pondicherry as well as in our college. We have taken a feeder and done the job, how we can integrate the solar and what are the impacts after the integration of the solar, like that. Finally, I will touch upon some basis of machine learning techniques for the prediction of the events with the distribution components data. So when we are connecting the solar, how we can predict the loading of the transformer and how our load points are benefited, or what are the problems we are facing when we are connecting more solar into the network here. Finally, where we can get these sources of data set, because in order to we cannot take data real time in all the plants. As an academician, as a researcher, where we can take the data set and how we can do this analysis, like that. Okay, so like this is my overall view of my presentation. right? If you have any queries also, you can ask at the last end, or you can type it at this dialog box. I will discuss with that. Okay. If you have any problems also, you can please call me. I will correct it. Right, in the presentation we work on. Right. So this is the conceptual model of our Indian regional grid. All these presentations are mostly on the practical side, not on the theoretical side. Right. So all the data are taken from the load dispatch center, as well as from the real-time monitoring of implementation projects here. Right. This is the conceptual model of our regional electricity grid in our India here, right? So, well, let us take our Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has almost 19,000 megawatt load, right? So it is regionally, Tamil Nadu is regionally connected with Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Kerala here, integrated. So any region, it is classified into 5 heretical regions in India. Northern region, southern region, eastern region, western region, and northeastern region. All the regions must have a central share. Central share means central government is producing the power, and it will give the share to the corresponding states here. The best examples are Neyveli Lignite Corporation. It is erected by the central government, and the power is shared not only to Tamil Nadu, adjacent to Kerala as well as Andhra Pradesh also, right? So let us take our Kalpakkam, right? Kalpakkam nuclear power station also shared the power to the adjacent states along with the Tamil Nadu here. Only thing is the native state has a larger share. Even we have a share from Neyveli. Pondicherry has a share from Neyveli as well as from Kalpakkam here. So there is a share from the central government as well as, but if the state governments are erecting the power plants, means let us take Manali, Ennur like that in Chennai, right? If the state governments are erecting the power, means in that case the state government has all the authority to use the complete power. It is not mandatory to share the power with the neighboring states, right? This is the conceptual model of our Indian regional grid here. Right. So if suppose if you have excess power, Tamil Nadu has the right to export the power to the adjacent states also here. Okay. So it is connected with the, so that only in the bottom I given that the state grid 1, 2, 3 like that. Right. And also we have another provision, a bulk consumer. It is not mandatory to get the power directly from the state grid. It can get the power directly from the exchanges also here. Okay. Before starting, I wish to show some of my views here. I will go with the, I will show one website, right, where our Indian Energy Exchange is working here, right? You can get a clear idea. So there are 2 energy exchanges in India. One is called as a Indian Energy Exchange. Another one is Power Exchange India Limited. Indian Energy Exchange works from Delhi, and the Power Exchange India Limited works from Mumbai here. So I will show the site of our Indian Energy Exchange here, right? You can get an idea. Here also we have the solar connectivity, how it is working like that. So this is IEX, Indian Energy Exchange here. It works from Delhi. Look at here. It works from Delhi, right? So here, a bulk consumer can buy the power directly from the exchange here, right? So it is like our stock exchanges. We have Sensex and Nifty for stock exchanges, but the Indian Energy Exchange is used for selling the power and buying the power. For the generator is concerned, they can sell the power. The powers like Tata Power, Torrent Power, Reliance Power, right? And the power generated by the central government as well as the state governments, they can sell the power as well as they can buy the power, because we need a common place where we can procure the power. So if the load demand is greater than 1 megawatt, an industry can procure the power directly from the grid here. Look at here. An attractive day ahead of the price. The price of today's unit is 2.82 rupees only, right? but even for our domestic tariff is more than 3.5 rupees. If you are consuming more than 500, it is about 4.5 rupees per unit here. But in wholesale, right, it is a data. In 365 days, it is a trading in 354 days. Among the 365 days, it's trading around the value of 2.82. So it is a great boon for the industry to get the power at a cheaper cost also here. Okay, here not only the thermal power, all the powers, including the solar power. Look at the products here, right? Yeah. So I will show the overview of it, right? So here, one day before itself, they can procure the power. Okay, so look at the data here. It is trading at the 15 minutes interval. Every 15 minutes, their market clearing price will vary here. And there is a double-sided anonymous action prices. So buyers are also quote the price, sellers are also quote the price, right? Generators also quote the price, as well as the bigger industries whose load demand is greater than 1 megawatt also quote the price. Even our college or industry tie-up whose load demand is greater than 1 megawatt also, they can quote the price here. So here, the clearance of our buyer and the seller.
WhatsApp lo chudu, WhatsApp lo chudu.
Clearing
Message
price
పంపించే దగ్గర.
that points here, right? And this is the clearance is updated by means of ABT meters located at the load dispatch center. Congestion management is possible, as well as the risk management is possible here. So it is working. But here it is working in India for the past 10 years. It is started in 2009. Okay, and look at the average MCP here. All are 2.43 like that. Okay, so here, and another important point is here not only the thermal power, even our renewable powers are trading here, right? Renewable power means our wind energy as well as solar energies are trading here, right? This is called as renewable energy certificates, right? So if you go to the renewable energy certificate, this is called as RES mechanism, right? So if an industry or a solar park is producing the power, they can also sell the power here, and you can also procure the power here. When initially started in 2009, the solar power was traded at the rate of 32 rupees per unit, 1 unit. But right now it is trading even lesser than 1 rupee also sometimes, right? But the thermal power is not possible at that cost. But because of the larger solar integration, it is the solar power, which is a green power, which is called as a renewable energy certificate, is there. So here it is trading at the rate of our 1.5 rupees to 2 rupees also here, and it is a hazardless power. You can consume the power directly from the generator also here. Okay, so this is the point where we can buy the solar power also directly from the exchanges here, but it is only possible when your load demand is greater than 1 megawatt here. Okay, then I want to discuss about what is market price. You have to discuss about the market clearing price between 11:15 to 11:30. Now it is 11:30. Look at the price. The price is about 1,999.58 rupees per megawatt hour. Okay, so when I today morning, when I look at the price between 6:30 to 6:45, it is traded at the price of 2,566. So every 15 minutes it will vary. Okay, if you test the prices, it will come like this, right? So now in the case of the current market scenario, 11:15 to 11:30, it is trading at 1,090. So it is about 2,000 rupees per megawatt hour. So it is completely varying. So the buyers and sellers can fix the price. So intersection point of the buyers and sellers can fix the price here, right? So here the solar power is also trading here, right? If you want a market data, if any researchers need your market data of the past 10 years, you can go here and take the data here directly here. Okay, so if you double click it, and it will go to the data. At that data point, you can get all the 10 years data in the 15 minutes interval. 15 minutes intervals means you can get the data per day itself. You can get 96 data, and in all the areas how the data is. You can take the solar power data at the area, one area to western area, southern area, like that. It is divided. Even if you select any one of the areas, it will give. Okay, so this is the advantage where we can get the data, and we have to know that Indian Energy Exchange is there where the electrical power is trading. So that only our government is encouraging a lot of private power plants to generate the power and sell directly to the consumer. Now also the private power generations are there, but they are not selling directly to the consumer. Let us take our telecommunication market. In the case of the telecommunication market, Reliance Power, also Jio, Airtel, or all the private parties as well as the government parties sell the power directly to the consumer. But before the execution of this power market, the direct selling to the consumer is not possible. But after the execution of this power market, direct selling of the power to the consumer is very much possible at this point here. Okay, this is the advantage of having the power exchange in India here. Okay, so this is our model of our Indian network. Right. So like that only, we are getting the power directly from the consumer. That is called as, this is called as IPP. IPP means a private power party. It is a combination of the renewable energy sources also, right? It may be a solar or wind or biogas or combination of those here. So this is the conceptual model. Any state, including Tamil Nadu, they can get the central share as well as the state-owned power generation, and also the private power parties are producing the power, and we can procure the power directly from the power exchanges concerned here. This is the model. This is a snapshot taken at a load dispatch center of Pondicherry here, right? So here, in the case of the central station, allocation of Pondicherry gets the allocation from Ramagundam. Look at the left-hand side, right? NTP is the Ramagundam station, as well as NLC, Neyveli Lignite Corporation stations, Madras Atomic Power Corporation, that is Kalpakkam, and also there are two power plants at Karnataka, which is called as Gaika 1 and Gaika 2. This is also a nuclear power station. Tadsar Kolar line, it is a HVDC line, Vallur, Kudangulam, and NTPL here. So like this, there is allocation of power to the central government here. So these are the installed capacities. So let us take Neyveli 1 has a capacity of 630 megawatts. Neyveli 2 has the capacity of 840. Where Ramagundam has the capacity of 2100, and the second unit of the Ramagundam has 500. So what is the percentage of allocation here? So if they are increasing the installed capacity, then the percentage allocation also increases here. That is the concept, how we are, the state government is getting the power from the central allocations here. Like this, if you go to the electricity department of Anna Salai, there also this load dispatch center, you can know that what is the allocation of the power to the all other central stations here. Look at the right hand corner, the load allocation to the Pondicherry is about 266. Our load demand is about 240 megawatts. So we can get a surplus power from the neighboring stations here. Pondicherry also generating the power from the gas power stations located at Karaikal. We have 2 gas power stations at Karaikal, each of capacity of 12 megawatt capacity here. Okay, so my intention is we have to understand that a station has the central allocation of power as well as the state allocation of the power. If it is a central allocation, the proportionality allocation has to be taken. If it is a state-owned power station, then you can completely using the 100% of the power to the state itself. It is not mandatory to share the power to the neighboring states here. But it is if it is selected by central government, you have to share the power to the neighboring states here. That is the concept here, right? But in the case of the power market is concerned, so this is called as a generators. Gencos are called as generators, and there is a wholesale seller. This may be a wind park or a solar park like that. So the power producers called as generators are submitting the bids to the independent system operator, as well as the power buyers, which are called as DISCOs. DISCOs means state electricity departments. It may be Pondicherry, it may be Tamil Nadu, it may be Andhra Pradesh or Telangana like that. They are also submitting the bids, including a independent industry that is called as a wholesale customer, and a group of customers are so the generators as well as the customers, both of them are submitting their bids, and this bid is cleared, right? So the intersection point of the buyers and sellers bid is called as a market clearing price. So using our independent system operator in the power exchange, we can clear these bids, and these bids. So according to that only, our MCP market clearing price is determined here. Anyhow, it is interconnected with the transmission company also. In India, our transmission company is the Power Grid Corporation. So it is maintaining the power substations whose capacity is greater than 440 kV here. Okay, this is the model of our electricity market here. It is not a power network. I told you it is called as a market because buyers and sellers are submitting bids to clear the price here. This is the internal structure of an independent system operator. The independent system operator consists of two components. One is called as a power exchange, where our market clearing price is determined. Look at that flow diagram. Power exchange is receiving the bids from the competitive generators, as well as it is receiving the bids from the loads also. And this is the market clearing price is determined by in the PX, right? So this is purely a financial transaction here. Power exchange does only a financial transaction, not a technical transaction here. And it has another subcomponent which is called as a system operator. System operator means it is a load dispatch center. So it does only after the bids are cleared in the power exchange financial transaction, it is transferred to the system operator, otherwise called as a load dispatch center of the corresponding state, in such a way that so whether it is technically cleared or not. Technically means whether any lines are overloaded or a transformer is overloaded. Like that, the technical clarification is done in the case of our system operator here. So it will monitor and control the power flow using our transmission facilities here. So if any transformer is overloaded or lines are overloaded, that job monitoring is done by means of the load dispatch center or a system operator here, which is supported using our ancillary services. Ancillary services means it may be a capacitor bank. So we are providing the capacitor bank in the distribution network in order to maintain the voltage, right? In the case of the transmission, we are having both the capacitor as well as the inductor bank to control the voltage here. In the case of our lessly loaded condition, in order to avoid the over voltage problem, we are connecting the inductor banks to absorb the voltage here. That is the point. So here, this is the overall structure of our independent system operator. So independent system operator consists of both the components, financial component as well as the technical component. Financial components are settled by the power exchange, where market clearing price is determined, and the technical components, whether the system is overloaded or not, is done by the system operator here, right? So before going to the network, we have to understand the basic structure. So I am explaining this. And this is the bidding area. Look at the bidding areas here, taken from Power Exchange India Limited. So taken the southern grid, right? Southern grid is divided into S1 and S2. S1 has Andhra, Telangana and Karnataka, and S2 has Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu and Kerala here. So southern regional grid is divided into two regions, two bidding areas. One is S1, another is S2. Similarly, in the case of our western region, it is divided into three areas: W1, W2, W3. Right, W1 is Madhya Pradesh, W2 is Gujarat and Maharashtra, and W3 is Chhattisgarh. W3 is Chhattisgarh. Similarly, in the northern state, it is divided into N1, N2, and N3. N1 is Jammu and Kashmir, and N3 is our Punjab, and N2 has other states here. The eastern region is classified into two areas, E1 and E2, and northeastern area is classified into A1 and A2 here. Why they are classifying into two areas or three areas means, right? So in order to share the power, as well as it is divided according to the power balance equation. Power balance equation means the generated power PG is equal to what is the consumption power PD plus losses, right? In some area there is a surplus power. In some area there is a deficient power here. Let us take I will take this W3. W3 is Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh is a very small state whose load demand is about 1,800 megawatts, but Chhattisgarh is producing around 19,000 megawatt. In India, it has a lot of three ultra mega coal power projects are there, and it is producing about 19,000 megawatt. And most of the power produced by the Chhattisgarh is exported to the other areas here. Even to the Bangalore, we have a dedicated line from Chhattisgarh, right, to export the power here. And also the Bangalore city is connected with the Thatsar and Kolar line. Kolar is located in Karnataka, Thatsar is located at Orissa. So from Orissa, they are exporting the power to Bangalore here, right? So according to the power balance equation, right, from the power surplus area, power is exported to the power deficit area here, right? So even though the load demands are very high at S1 and S2, we have power plants, but those power plants in southern region are not able to meet out the power demand. So we are interconnected with the western region as well as the eastern region. Similar phase, western region is interconnected with the northern region, southern region as well as eastern region. Eastern region is interconnected with the northeastern region, northern region, western region, and the southern region here. In this table column, you look at what are the different bidding areas and what are the states are connected here, right? So this data is taken from IEX India, Indian Energy Exchange India Limited, so that only we have to know that through which line we can export the power. Suppose if the line is congested at some point, then you have to go with the expansion of the transmission system also here. Like this, our Indian power market is working. Why I am talking this means if solar is connected, let us take solar. The solar rich stations are located at Maharashtra as well as in Gujarat. So if the solar is connected in similar fashion in Tamil Nadu, in the southern Tamil Nadu near Kayathar as well as in Kerala, they are producing large amount of wind powers also. These wind powers must be transmitted to the load center, as well as this power has to be traded, right? So we need a common place where the power has to be sold as well as the power has to be bought. Then only we know that who is generating the power and what price it is cleared every day here. So that only it is mandatory to have our power exchange India Limited here. In the power exchange, we are trading the power here. So this is the snapshot about our buyers and sellers. Suppliers means it is a generator curve, and demand curve means it is a consumer curve here. So the intersection point is the market clearing price, right? So here it benefits both consumers as well as the producer here. So that only it is called as a social welfare here. This curve can also be drawn for a solar as well as the wind power stations also here, right? The major challenge is if the solar or wind power integration is huge, right? What are the problems we are facing here? That we will discuss. Right? So we will go to, it is mandatory. Now we can mandatory, we can go to the structure of our smart grid here. The reason behind the smart grid here is, first of all, the Indian government felt that the losses occurred in that distribution side is huge. Huge means it is in the order of 36%. If 1 megawatt is distributed, then 36% of power is the losses, right? This power loss may be due to the technical losses, and sometimes it may be due to commercial losses. Commercial losses means it includes theft as well as meters are not running. Meters are running but not showing the actual readings. In some cases, meters are not running here. So the smart grid concept is introduced in the distribution by the Indian government. Especially the first aim is to reduce the distribution losses and keep the distribution losses with 5%. From 36% of the power distribution losses, it is mandatory to reduce the losses to 5%. That is the objective. First main objective of our smart grid implementation in the distribution. Of course, we can do our peak load management and also power buying and selling using our renewables also included in the case of our smart grid here. So here, first we have to define what is meant by a smart grid. We have a power grid, microgrid, and the smart grid. We have to distinguish here, right? Already the power structure is there, power grid is there, right? So power grid also it is connected with the solar, wind, and the different conventional power stations also here. Then what is the difference between a microgrid and the power grid means? If renewables are connected at the distribution, it is called as a microgrid. Renewables are connected both in transmission side as well as distribution side. I will give an example. In southern region of Tamil Nadu, a city called as Kamudi, right, and near Arupakottai, we have an Adani Power is connected with a huge solar power station, right? Almost about 600 megawatt capacity solar. That is connected with the transmission, right? So it is like another generator of Naval Liquid Corporation, like that, right? So, but if we are connecting the solar at the our home or an industry or an IT park has a solar, then it is called as a microgrid. So, by definition is microgrid means renewable integration in the distribution is called as a microgrid. Then what do you mean by a smart grid means? Smart grid couples many together. There is a two-way power flow. Two-way power flow means a buyer can, we can produce the power and you can export the grid. You can produce the power, you can consume, and the remaining power you can export, right? It is a bidirectional power flow. In the similar fashion, there is a bidirectional commercial exchange also. Now we are consuming the power, and whatever the Tamil Nadu State Electricity Board is dictating, we are paying for that. But in the case of the smart grid, you can say the customer can say that so up to 3 rupees you can give the power. Beyond 3 rupees I don't need your power. Or beyond 3 rupees you need 50% of the power. Another 50% I can generate one from our solar connected with our home also here, right? So there is a two-way power flow as well as a two-way communication flow also there. But in the case of the power grid or in the case of our microgrid, there is no two-way communication is there. But in the case of the power grid, there is a two-way power flow is there. But there is no two-way communication or a tariff fixation is not there. But the smart grid encourages that, and this is done using our smart meters. Okay, and also the another major difference here is the smart grid consists of a self-healing property. What do you mean by self-healing property means? You know that we have protective devices such as fuses as well as circuit breakers are connected in the grid. But if there is after the fault only, fault occurs in the system, then these protective devices of circuit breakers or fuses will operate, right? But in the case of the smart grid, before the fault happened itself, what is the probability of the fault, right? So then before the fault happens itself, it will heal itself. It has some self-healing property in the grid. I will discuss in detail what are the self-healing property devices are connected in the grid. Practically, we will discuss about it. Okay. So if there is a two-way power flow, two-way communication flow, and if the grid has a self-healing property, then it is called as a smart grid. Okay. People should not confuse what is meant by a power grid, a microgrid, and the smart grid here. So this smart grid transforms the current power grid to one that functions more cooperatively, responsibly, and organically. Okay, so this is the combination of both hardware as well as the software interface here, and intelligently controlled by means of the IT structure of our grid here. Okay, this smart grid integration is beneficial both to utilities as well as to the consumers here. As I told that it is implemented, first primary aim to implement the smart grid in the distribution side is to reduce our aggregated technical and commercial losses, to increase the grid stability, and to carry out our PLM, peak load management, because the power demand is very high during the peak load condition. So according to that only your transformers are designed. Let us take that so in our feeder, feeder is consuming 10 megawatt, but during the peak load period of morning and evening, if it consumes 14 megawatts, then the transformers are designed to 14 megawatts only. But after the integration of our renewable energy sources, right, during the peak load period, why not you can use the renewable energy power instead of drawing the power from the grid, right? Yeah, so we can design the transformer to a base load period, base load itself here. So the transformer is lessly stressed, and you can do our peak load management here. 20% of peak load management power is peak in the case of our Indian distribution grid. That can be avoided by integrating the renewables here. So renewable integration, especially is the green power. Renewable integration is inevitable right now in order to meet the growing load demand, as well as we can reduce the losses as well as the theft also in the case here, right? And since the smart grid consists of a self-healing property, before the fault itself, we can maintain the probable points here. I will give a small example at this point. Suppose if many transformers, let us take that in Pondicherry we are having about 450 transformers in one feeder, right? So after the outage of the transformer only, we came to know that this transformer is overloaded or something wrong in the transformer like that. There is no alarming system in the transformer in such a way that the transformer is overloaded like that. And also it is mandatory such a way that the lineman will go and physically visit the transformer every time. But in the case of the smart grid, we know that what is the percentage of the loading, what is the percentage of the stress, and what is the dielectric property of the transformer sitting at a control center itself. We have some of the sensors and floaters are there inside the transformer, and those will communicate the data. What is the power consumed with the transformer, current in the transformer, voltage in the transformer, and not only the entire transformer, even RYB. So this data is communicated directly to the smart grid control center itself here, right? So self-healing property and real-time monitoring really helps to manage the power very efficiently here, right? So the outage of the transformer is a more critical point in the case of our distribution is concerned, because transformer is the costliest element in the distribution. In this case, one transformer of 315 kVA costs around 7 lakhs, 500 kVA transformer costs around 12 lakhs here. So Our major aim with the distribution is we have to save the transformer and we have to give the reliable and the good quality of the power to the consumer here. So by means of the service that we can carry out here, higher customer satisfaction, and also the transformer output is correctly measured and the meters are monitored, and it will increase the revenue also. It will increase the revenue also here. Now, right now also, because of this pandemic, Tamil Nadu government is introducing the method, calculate the power of our own, right? We can calculate the power up from our energy meter of our own, and we can pay the bill through the internet here, like that. But if the smart grid is implemented across India, it is not necessary to physically come to our home and they can take the reading here. Using our the smart meter, they can remotely connect it, and remotely they can take the readings also here. So let us take a bigger town like an apartments, right? So it is not necessary to go to the physically go to all the apartments and take the readings. Instead of that, so remotely using our smart meters, they will communicate the data to the control center. They can take the data here. So higher leverages are there. Opportunity to leverage its sources and enter into a new power as well as marketing areas here, right? And asset utilization is increased in this case. Why I am talking about the asset utilization is because in the case of the transformers, most of the prices it is underutilized, right? Transformers are designed to meet out the peak load demand, but during the normal load demand condition, we observed that many of the transformers are now up to 25% itself, right? So in that case, we can reconfigure our transformer and we can utilize the transformer utilization also here, right? So increased asset utilization is also possible here. So if you find that the transformer is not loaded too much, then we can encourage a lot of solar also. We cannot connect the solar as it is in our home. If you are consuming your solar power to the home, no problem. But if you are exporting to the grid, or you are taking from the others neighboring solar fields, then you have to check out what is the capacity of our overhead line or underground line, and as well as the transformer connected with the solar here. So after the connection of the solar, what we observe, many of the transformers are overstressed, as well as the, and we have we erected new transformers also to handle the power also there, right? So these managements are very important in the case of our smart grid areas connected with that. As a power electronics engineer, what we can think in this area, during the light load condition and the heavy load condition, what is the effect of our converters there, right? So the converters are, whether these converters are delivering the full capacity of power at close to unity power factor. If there is any lagging power factor, how to utilize it. Like that, we have to look up or design the power electronics converters for the smart grid when it is connected with the grid. Right? So this smart grid transition is helpful for our customers also here, right? So the consumers can become a prosumer. They can produce the solar or wind power at the home, and they can export or import the power there, right? So it is called as a prosumer who is consuming as well as they are producing the power. It is called as a prosumer here, right? After the implementation, we can get the good quality of the power here. Not only the continuous the power supply, the voltage frequency would be very good after the implementation of the smart grid structure here, right? And this is user friendly, and it is a transparent interface to the utilities as well as for the customer, and the shifting of the loads to the during the peak load condition, opportunity to interact with the electricity market, with the home area network, with the smart grid connectivity, and everybody is working with the green power economy. So after the integration of the renewables, we can go to the green power economy structure also here. These are the benefits why we are going to the smart grid here. Not only it is a theoretical, I will show some practical readings also, how it will be implemented in the actual parameters here. The merits of the smart meters connected, smart meters are connected only in the distribution, right? In the transmission, it is not connected. In the transmission, we connected only the PMUs, phasor measuring units here. The smart meter is very similar to our energy meter. Only thing is it is a digital energy meter which has a communication portal, which remotely we can communicate the portal here. Even we can shut down the smart meter at the remote place also here. Energy auditing is done. Power electronics engineers, we can do the energy auditing using power quality analyzer generally. But the problem with the power quality analyzer is you have to always connect it with the system. And also, if you do the analysis of one feeder at one place only, we can connect to the power quality analyzer, right? So, but since the smart meter is connected with independently to each load condition, you can do the power quality analysis for each load condition simultaneously at no cost. No additional equipment is needed. If the smart meter is there, no additional equipment is needed for energy auditing purpose. And also our energy auditing is more accurate, right? Yeah, the data received from all the smart meters at the time here. And the theft will be avoided, right? Because we are tracking the performance of the smart meter remotely. Managing the grid, disconnecting and connecting services is very simple at the remote, right? Home energy display is also there. Even we can communicate the tariff structure, power flow structure to the consumers directly from the control center here using these smart meters. So these are the merits of these smart meters connected with the distribution grid, and which will be helpful both for the utilities as well as for the customer point of view. Okay. This is the overall project view of our real-time implementation of our smart grid here, right? So this is implemented in electricity area division 1 here, where we have almost around 350 distribution transformers and 87,000 consumers are connected. This is implemented. Now it is in commercial use also here. Since the city is Pondicherry city is very small, right? We have this area. Electricity division 1 consists of 7 numbers of 22 kV lines as well as 11 kV, 5 numbers of 11 kV underground cable lines here. And the consumer point of view, we have commercial, domestic, agriculture, high tension consumers as well as the street consumers also here. Street lights are also monitored used on these projects also here, right? This project area consists of 14 feeders, and 14 feeders it is connected with the corresponding smart meters, and the readings are stored at the smart meter control center here. Look at the area here, right? So one is our SCADA center, right? System control center is our SCADA, and the smart grid control center is managed by both our Power Grid Corporation of India as well as by means of our Power Electricity Department of Pondicherry here, right? This is the snapshot of our smart meter installed here. It is connected in parallel with the existing energy meter. First, we did not replace the energy meter because people has to understand that the readings of the energy meter as well as the smart meter remains the same. So we connected in parallel with the existing smart meter, and after understanding the customers such a way that both the meters are measuring the same reading, then we can replace the existing meter itself here. Okay. This is a data consolidator. So all the smart meters are not mandated to communicate the data directly to the control center. So a group of data. A group of data means under one transformer, let us take 200 smart meters are connected. So one data consolidator collected all the data from the 200 smart meters, and on behalf of this 200 smart meters, this data consolidator will communicate to the smart meter control center here. It is like a telecommunication tower. One telecommunication tower carries almost about 20,000 consumers, right? On behalf of these 20,000 consumers, it will communicate to the central control center here. Similarly, a group of smart meter, the data are collected with the data consolidator and connected in, right? the reason behind is the communication cost is simpler. If you go with the data concentrator, the cost for the communication is simpler. Or if you are not worrying about the cost of communication, even you have a smart meters can directly communicate to the control centers here. Okay, and this is the very essential device to implement our self-healing property. This device is called as FPI, fault passage indicator. This is implemented in the overhead line of our city. The feature of this FPI is before the fault occurs itself, it will communicate that the probability of the fault occurring here is large, right? So you have to monitor this line. So this will collect the data of all the lines R, Y, B, and it will compare the degrees as well as the magnitude, power, current patterns also, power quality also occur, right? So before any fault occurs, our waveform will show what is the variations of these wave oscillations in these trajectories of the waveforms of current and voltage, and using that it will predict that the fault is going to happen. After the fault is happened, our circuit breaker will save the circuit, right? But before the fault happened, right now we have no devices to save the circuit. But this is the device which will tell that the probability of the fault is going to happen in this feeder is very high. So that feeder connected loads are monitored immediately here. So the reliability of the power is maintained in this case by installing this FPA here. So this is called as a self-healing property. In all the smart grid must have, in order to save this transmission line we have. Okay. And similarly, in the case of our transformer also, at the output we are connecting the smart meter. So we have in this diagram we have R, Y, B as well as the neutral is there. Okay. So the smart meter is connected at the output, right? So it shows that what is the power delivered from the transformer. So let us take this. This transformer is connected to 100 numbers of ohm, 20 numbers of stops, like that, right? So if you cumulatively add those smart meter data of 100 numbers of ohm and 20 numbers of stops, must be equal to the output of the transformer here, right? Very similar to our Kirchhoff's current law. The algebraic sum of the outgoing currents is equal to the algebraic sum of the incoming currents, like that. So here, what I'm saying that the power output of the transformer must be equal to the algebraic sum of the power consumed by the different consumers. If it is not matching, so then what will happen? There is a problem with the distribution end. It may be the problem with the meters connected. It may be problem with the cables or overhead lines connected with the losses. Otherwise, there may be some theft problem is here. Okay, so that is the advantage why we are connecting the smart meter output, and the utilization of the transformer is high. And not only that, we can also observe that what is the loading point of R, Y, B also we can understand from here. Look at this distribution transformer data here. So time stamped, what is the year, what is the month, and what is the time it is taken, and what is the current passing through, current and voltages, and usage rate of the windings of the transformer here, right? If there is a over voltage problem, it will intimate to the control center. It will be addressed, right? So, if there is a problem inside the oil, it will be communicated to the control center by means of a float there. So none of the transformer will be outage, right? Most of the transformers are, in our experience, most of the transformers are made outage because of the unbalancing of power. R phase only largely loaded. Y phase and B phases are lessly loaded. Because right now we did not have a system in such a way that what is the loading point of the R phase, Y phase, and B phase. But with the experience, the linemen are connected with the system here. But right now, after the implementation of the smart grid, we can know that what is the loading of R phase, Y phase, B phase independently. According to that, the loads can be shifted to the lessly loaded points here. So the utilization of the transformer as well as the lines are very highly impacted by implementing this smart grid structure here. Okay. Yeah, this is the snapshot about the oil temperature. So how the oil temperature is monitored in the case of our smart grid here. So the oil temperature, it will withstand the it will go up to 90 degrees. If your oil temperature is greater than 70 degrees, it will intimate to the substation in the case of the transformer. So if anything goes wrong with the transformer or any unbalancing load or overloading condition or any internal fault in the transformer or external fault in the transformer, oil temperature is the first point it is reflected. Oil will get heated if the windings are heated like that. So monitoring the oil transformer using a float, and it will remotely communicate the data to the control center is a vital point to monitor the data here. This is also another self-healing equipment to provide the protection point in the case of our transformer in the smart grid. These are some of the site photos of fault passage indicators, right, where it is connected physically in the case of our smart grid structure here. Yeah, this is interesting slide. This is a snapshot taken from the smart grid control center, right? Look at here. This is the Marapalam station, Marapalam substation distribution. This is a distribution SCADA, right? Previously we discussed about the transmission SCADA, but this is a distribution SCADA. The advantage of the distribution SCADA is we can observe what is the power flow, current flow, voltages at the feeders, as well as the transformers also here. So it is working with the 3 different voltages. The red color lines are working with 110 kV, and yellow color lines are working with the 22 kV, and the green color lines are 11 kV lines. And the transformers are connected between 110 to 22 and 110 to 11 kV. Those are all step down transformers. And from the 22 kV and 11 kV, there are many feeders are there. Look at the feeders: Amaravati Chemicals, Ariyaguppam, New Feeder, Rajanivas, Pillai-Thotam, Town, Nellithop, like that. There are a lot of feeders are there, right? In each feeder, it shows that automatically, remotely, we can find that what is the power flow, what is the current flow, what is the real power, reactive power, what is the voltage there, and also that in each feeder we have plenty of transformers also. If you double click this feeder, it will go to the transformer inside, and we can look at that what is the loading of the transformer and what is the power flow in the transformer here. So entire skeleton of the distribution grid we can look at from our smart distribution grid control center here. Okay. We can also visualize our yards also. Yard is nothing but a interconnection point of 2 or more connections. With so look at here. This is Marapalam is connected with the Venkatanagar substation. So this left hand end is Venkatanagar substation, right hand end is Marapalam substation. The power is given to different yards, and these different yards are connected to different feeders here. And the power flow can be monitored remotely. What is the power flow in each feeder and the yard? And the switches are available in such a way that suppose if any maintenance or failure in one yard, the power can be diverted from the other yard also here, right? Remotely we can do all these jobs here. That is the merit why we are going with a smart grid implementation in the distribution grid here. And this is a snapshot taken from the meter data acquisition system, right? So each meter data acquisition system, what is the power and what is the smart meter data we can use here. We can take it directly from here. Yeah, this is interesting slide. It shows that if you click any one of the consumer, it may be an industry or a load, right? But this is the what is the pattern by which the load is consuming, right? Whether it is uniformly consuming, it is different. They are zigzagly consuming. You can take, and also we can do the power quality analysis also here. Generally, we call this is as a load curve. Load curve of a customer. This is automatically generated. So before the implementation of the smart grid, it is not possible to get the data, energy meter data for each and every second. But after the implementation of the smart grid implementation, we are getting there each and every minute what is the consumption of each load can be taken into account here. So here load dispatch management, we can do it very simply here. It is the snapshot of our portal, smart grid portal here. You can enter directly into the portal of each consumer, and you can look at that. Consumer has a facility in such a way that for each day and each time period also, what is the consumption of the power you can monitor. Now we can get the energy meter reading after 2 months only. Cumulatively only you know what is the consumption of this month or next month, like that. But in this case, for each hour of a particular day, what is the consumption of this home, we can monitor here. So this will benefit to the utilities as well as for the customers also. Customers also can track their power, which day we are consuming the more power and how to control this power like this, power consumption like this. We can do it using this web portal also here. Yeah, this is a snapshot taken from a consumer. The consumer name is Arumainathan, right? The address is given. And what is the consumption, what is the tariff structure, and everything can be visualized using this plan here, right? And for the consumer, for each and every hour, what is the consumption? As I look at the date. So for the different dates, what are the consumption, right? And if they are going with the different plans also, like in our mobile, we have different plans. We have top-up plans, and we have what do you call booster plans, like that. So if the electricity board is implementing that, the tariff structure will be different for a different day period also. So this will give the consumption at the different period also here. Yeah. So this is the major slide about our penetration of the solar here. If the large solar penetration is taken from a UK colony, published at IEEE Power and Energy magazine, right? So almost most of the home in this colony are connected with the solar, right? So here, what are the problems you are facing when you are connected with the solar here, especially in the case of the point of our power system as well as the power electronics point of view here. When the solar power is largely integrated, right? First thing is it is good for the utility, because utility is not necessary to distribute the power from a longer distance to the home. The advantage of the consumer is consumers can produce their own power and they can consume. Look at the after the evaluation of this theoretical vehicle, right? So without this solar, the power grid has to give more supply to the homes. Suppose if you have solar in your home with the battery structure, right? Your cars as well as your power consumed by every home can be taken from one solar, and the excess power we can taken from our grid here. Okay, so this is the advantage on the utility as well as on the customer side. But when it is when the solar is largely penetrated to the network, what are the problems in the case of our power electronics means it becomes a inverter dominated system. When we connected with the thermal power plants, nuclear power plants, right? So the inertia of the system is very high. That is generally it is called as a generator dominated system, which has more stability. In this case also, we have coal power plants, hydro power plants, nuclear power plants. PV, the share of the PV is less than 30% of the load demand. But if the share of the PV is more than the 30% of the load demand, then this system becomes a very less inertia. If any system has a less inertia, then what will happen? Even for a smaller load change, then there will be a huge oscillations will be there. If the system has a higher inertia, even there is a change in the load demand, then the system will be very stable, right? The inertia will be provided by means of only the generators. Generator means conventional generators, hydro power, coal power or nuclear power. But the PV will give a very, very less inertia. Okay, so when the penetration is above 30%, it becomes a very less inertia system. So this is the right now all the power electronics engineers are working with how to give pseudo inertia for the inverters, right? So when you will give a pseudo inertia, then the system will be stable. Otherwise, we cannot connect more solar in the system here. This is the limitation of the PV connected system here. When we connect more and more solar system, then the system will oscillate due to the lower inertia executed by the system here. Okay, this is a very important point when the solar connectivity in a real time. So we have taken an actual feeder system, right? This is the practical data. So here we have. So look at the data here. There are different. We are taking the power from the Mangatanagar substation of 110/11 kV transformer, and it is distributed to different loads. Okay. The objective is which is the best point to connect the solar in the system. Generally, as a power engineer point of view, they will connect to the solar where the voltage is very low. Generally, they will connect like that. Okay, but in this case, we are not doing like this. We computed a new load power factor, which is called as a diurnal load factor. What do you mean by diurnal load factor? Means how the transformers are loaded in the daytime. Okay, loads are classified into two types. One is called as a day load, another one is called as a night load, right? The third one is called as a day and night load. So last one, look at the lamps here. These lamps are the street lamps and Pondicherry beach here, right? So this will be illuminated only during the night. This is an example for night load, right? And the government buildings and banks, government buildings, schools, these are all mostly day loads. And the loads in the commercial area are the best examples for day and night loads, right? They are loaded in the daytime as well as during the night time also here. Okay, the best point to locate the solar power station is, right? So here where the day loads are very heavy, that is the solar, right? Because solar power is we are getting only to the daytime. You can directly take the power to the loads here, right? You can also connect the power with the other loads also, but it should be connected in conjunction with the batteries. When we go with the larger size of the solar, the battery size also becomes very high, and the capital cost of the battery also becomes very high here due to the lead cost. The battery cost nowadays increasing day by day here. So in order to avoid that, it is better point of placing the solar is we compute our diurnal load factor and we place the solar here. And also we look at that if you penetrate the solar greater than 30, and we have to go with the a smart inverter which is capable of producing the pseudo inertia also. This is the another feeder. We have this layout of another practical feeder taken into account here. So here these star points are nothing but the transformers are connected. These transformers are connected, and where we have to connect the solar and how the inertia are calculated using this current feeder. That feeder is transformed like a one-line diagram here. In this one-line diagram, there are distribution transformers as well as there are two different types of loads. One is called as a spot load, another one is called as a distributed load here. Right? Spot load means examples are it may be an independent industry or it may be a college, right? Where the transformer is placed inside the premises and it is controlled, which is called as a spot load. Inside our premises, we have different loads, nothing wrong in that. But the distributed load means our substation transformer will take care of many loads. Look at the transformer in the streets, right? So the one transformer is connected with 100 homes, 20 shops, like that. So that is called as a distributed load here. So but it is not so in the case of our transmission. In the transmission, we have only one load, which is called as a spot load. but the distribution load is not present in the transmission. Distribution load is present only in the distribution end of our time here. So this is the data we have practically get it from the feeder, and we have clustered the consumers, right? So what do you mean by clustered the consumers? Means we are grouping the consumers. Okay, so depends upon the consumption pattern of the load, right? Already told that the smart meters, we are not only taking the data, we also know what is the pattern in which they are consuming. So according to the pattern, the consumers are classified, right? So nowadays the major classification is called as a domestic consumer, commercial consumer, what do you call industrial consumer, like that. So it depends upon the type of load only we are classifying, right? But sometimes a home can be consumed like an industry, and industry can be consumed like a home, according to the load pattern is consumed. So instead of classifying by means of the type of the consumers, we classified the consumers according to the load pattern. So this is called as a clustering. Group of similar pattern consumers is called as one cluster. So we clustered it. What is the benefits of this cluster is, so according to this type of clustering only, the loading of the transformer will occur. Okay, so uniformly loaded, or a few hours are loaded, or continuously loaded, that we can be calculated. So according to the clustered load, the tariff also will be different, right? If they are zigzagly consumed, once in a while only they are consuming, means the power tariff will be very higher. And the power tariff will be lower if you are consuming uniformly also here. So the cluster based tariff will come into part here, right? Yeah. So in order to, that is the distribution point of view here. In order to maintain the frequency in the grid, we are connecting the battery also here. The battery connectivity is nothing but it is connecting a solar here, right? Solar and a battery output both are same, right? But if the solar implementation is not possible in that connectivity, we can connect the battery also there. The output of the solar as well as the output of the battery is the DC power. Anyhow, it has to be converted into AC power, and it has to be transferred through the transformer only here. But we are recommending that if the DC loads are very higher, the examples are IT parks. In college, there are computer labs, right? So plenty of computers are there where the DC powers are there. We can directly connect a battery, or we can directly connect a solar in the system, and you can take the power directly here. So in this case, we connected the system directly to the distribution grid here. So this is the another snapshot taken from London, right? Great Britain. This is the event happened at on August 9th, 2019. What will happen if the frequency is down here, right? Already you know that all these electrical engines are driven by power electronics drives, right? These power electronics drives are working. These drives are mostly frequency dependent, right? If the frequency is dipping, these power electronics drives are facing the problems here. This is one event. Look at on that day what happened. This is happened on 4 o'clock in the evening. Suddenly power is there, but there is a dip in frequency. But power is there. For 54, the frequency of the grid is decreased up to 48.8 hertz, right? So at this point also it is dipped, but power is there. So at this point, what happened? Many of the electrical trains, which is driven by power electronics drives, are locked up. Okay, so within 2 seconds, the frequency was retrieved using the batteries, right? But even it is not able to tolerate 2 seconds. The power electronics drives are locked up, right? So all the electrical strains are stranded at remote places, and the hospitals where where it is the backup supply given from the power electronics UPS, they are also logged up. Okay, so these many events are happened when there is a dip in frequency happens here, right? So in this case, what happens? So power electronics devices have a very poor performance when there is a dip in frequency. So power electronics engineers must have taken care of this frequency. As a power system point of view, when the frequency is dipping, if the power can be back up from the battery, so the dip in frequency can be avoided. Otherwise, power electronics engineers has to be designed the power electronics device, even it will work at the 48 Hz also here. In both the cases, we can approach this problem, this type of problems also here. Okay, so in this case, we can monitor these type of problems can be avoided when you connect a battery in the distribution grid here. This is another case study done in our college here, right? So these are the different departments located in our college, and the 3 transformers are connected about 315 kVA with the overhead line as well as with the underground line here. Okay, so these are the transformation as well as these are the smart meters where it is located, right? Computer lab, power quality meters located here. These are the report generated from the harmonics report generated from the device called as MC5. That is one load point. So TST at R, Y, B can be located. Not only the TST, voltage TST, current TST also measured at the different time. Right? No separate device is needed. Even the smart meters will take care of it. So this is the energy report taken from the night load structure called as a Boyce system. Right? So energy, real power energy, reactive power energy also can be taken into account here. And we can also monitor the loading of the transformer. In this case, the loading of the transformer may be at the different R phase, Y phase, and B phase, right? How the transformer currently, and it can be controlled using our mobile network also here. This is the advantage of monitoring the power as well as the correcting the power in the real time using the smart grid implementation. Okay, so next thing I want to cover is how these data can be handled using our data science process here, right? So in real time, you can collect the data from the overhead lines and transformers and everything. Your raw data is collected, and the raw data has to be processed because the raw data consists of some errors also there. Some meters may not be communicated. Some loss of meter data will be there. Some are showing the wrong data like that. So first we clean the data and we have to do the exploratory data analytics. EDA, exploratory data analytics, suggests that you can visualize the data, right? It can be done using our Tableau or Power BI tools also there. You can visualize the data before processing the data also here. Then we can make the models and we can write the algorithms how these data are working or distributed here. Finally, what is the loading structure of the transformer or a line, and how to prevent the data from the real time. Using this data analytics, we are processing the data and we are predicting the failure of the line, failure of the transformer, and the consumption data of the loading here. Forecasting. I can say without forecasting, I can say that predicting the load demand. Forecasting is a looser term. Predicting is the higher term, which has more accuracy than the forecasting tool here. Okay, so by collecting the data, we have four different types of data analytics. One is the prescriptive, predictive, third one is the diagnostic, and finally descriptive. Descriptive means what is happening in our business, right? So it is a comprehensive structure, whether we are getting a live data or not. Diagnostic means you can diagnose what is happening inside it. What is the root cause of the failure? Which time it was failure? Which load is contributing for the failure? Which transformer is often failure, like that. So predictive means what likely to be happen, how to save this, right? What is the historical pattern of the consumption? How the decision can be taken by means of the models as well as the algorithms. That we can do it by means of predictive. prescriptive is what we have to do in order to prevent this, right? So this is called as a prediction. This is more accurate than the forecasting. So prescriptive is not there in forecasting. Okay, that is advantage while we are going with the data analytics of the system here. So for this, we are using our two methods. One is called as a supervised learning, another one is called as a unsupervised learning. In the case of the supervised learning, we classified the loads into domestic, commercial as well as industrial loads. But in the case of the unsupervised load, we are clustering the different types of loads according to the load patterns. And where the data is not there, or planning structure is then then we will go to the reinforcement learning structure here, where the assumption of the data can be taken from the experience of the other areas here. So these are the main machine learning techniques where we can predict the loading of the overhead line as well as the underground line and also the loading of our transformers also here. These methods right now we are working along with that, right? So this is the slide we have understanding the problem, data preparation with the help of different modeling and algorithms. We can evaluate the data and finally we can deploy it in case of our consumer point of view. So in the data preparation is very important point where we can go to the exploratory data analytics using a Python or R package, or a table can be used to visualize the data, right? Table, SAB are visualizing the data here. And finally, after visualizing the data, we can go for the different modeling process, which has a higher accuracy here, right? So right now, as a power engineer point of view, it is recommended to go with a graphical data analytics, where we can visualize the data with the help of your points. Look at this diagram. There is a raw data is there. After the exploratory data analytics, all the nodes are connected. This is called as a initial graph, right? From the generator, it is connected to the different load entities, right? And finally, these entities are divided into subgraphs. It is like this because most of the points are not necessary. Where we are facing a critical infrastructure, there we can concentrate more. There we can concentrate, and using our PageRank algorithm, computer science engineers will know it. Using the PageRank algorithm, we weighted the importance of the every node. Okay, so which node will be weighted? This red color node is connected with all the nodes, but all other nodes are not connected with all the nodes. This red color node is very important. If you lost this red color node, then the power will not be connected to other nodes here. So PageRank algorithm is used to rank the node, and finally we can analyze the data, and we can use this directly with the power network system itself here. That is advantage why we are going with the data analytics in a power period here. So look at this is very interesting snapshot. So here we have different dots, right? So the diameter of the dot is very higher if the magnitude of the power transmission is higher. And you saw that how these dots are connected with the interconnecting dots. Using a PageRank algorithm, right, you can rank every node. And so the rank highest node is highly important. And all these nodes are, so depends upon the nodal rank, we have to preserve it. So it will be very useful for the system in order to identify that which is a important node and how we have to save the connectivity of the system here, like that. Okay, so my important point here is the takeaway, especially in the case of the research point of view, predicting protective schemes for the storage technologies in the grid here, right? So if there is a battery is connected, right, when it has to be export the power, when it has to be import the power, that it has to be correctly, it has to be challenged here, right? So our protected devices, our circuit breakers should not look at that. The two-way power flow should be, it is a fault like that. Okay, so it should be monitored. Challenges in protection of the integration of the solar as well as the wind and battery here, right? So if the solar is penetrated more, then as I told that due to the low inertia problem, we have to go with a pseudo inertia based converter design, right? If the wind is connected, then there will be more oscillations, right? And the reactive power consumed is very higher here. If the wind is connected, the output is AC, no issues at all. But if the solar is connected, if the output is DC, we have to connect it to AC. Otherwise, it is better to connect with the DC load centers here, right? Challenges in protecting the AC DC grid. So in developed countries, especially in Singapore, now they are going with the AC DC grid, where the DC loads are very high. They are connecting the batteries as well as the solar directly. There the distribution itself for DC, completely DC. Recently visited IIT Tirupati. The IIT Tirupati, the entire IIT Tirupati new campus is illuminated using the DC grid only. Okay, the entire campus. Like that, so they are going with the large mega plant of our solar, and they are taken into account of the DC directly without transformer. The disadvantage here. Then finally, we can apply the machine learning as well as the deep learning techniques to monitor the transformers, lines, transmission line, distribution lines, as well as the capacitors, inductors, loads points of the distribution components are there. Okay. This is the AI-based power system research problems. Here, I look at here transformer loading prediction, transmission line loading prediction, battery failure prediction, power quality prediction, fault prediction, maximum demand prediction, ABT prediction of the discounts. Instead of forecast, I replace a word called as a prediction, because the prediction means the more accurate than the forecast here. Okay, so you can employ a lot of AI algorithms, right, to incorporate all these predictions are here. Right, this is the hot area where both power engineers as well as the power electronics engineers can work here. Power electronics engineers can work for a pseudo inertia based inverter design, as well as working principles of power electronics drives in low frequency areas here when connected with the distribution. These are the two areas power electronics engineers can work. Power system engineers can work with the absolute prediction models of the different power component systems here. These are the some of the AI-based power system research problems, and we have exclusively for the smart grid. We have the transaction, IEEE transactions and smart grid. Right, lot of papers are coming in this area. You please go through that and can know that how these AI techniques are used to predict the efficiency as well as the operation of the power components here. Okay. The sources of data, where we can get the data. The sources of data, we can get it from Central Electricity Regulatory Council of India, CERC India, IEX India, Indian Energy Exchange, and we have Urban Data Exchange at Pune, Indian Urban Exchange, and we can get the data from the open sources like GitHub and Kaggle, and we have recently Google launched a data set search called as a Google data set search. We have more than 1 million data set is available, including smart meter data, distribution transformer data, right? All the data are available in the case of the Google data set search. It is a very, very important website right now, right? So all the researchers as well as customers are loading the data in the Google data set search here. So don't worry about the real-time data collection. You can go there and get the data here. And also IEEE comes with the IEEE data port also. IEEE data port, where all the published IEEE papers, all the authors are encouraged to upload the data in the IEEE data port also. All the IEEE published papers, the data will be uploaded here. Okay, so where we can get the source, because getting the data also a major point for us. Finally, I thank AICTE, UGC, DS-TICFIST projects, from which we have implemented many current line implementations in our college as well as in the Pondicherry city. I thank PED officials, Pondicherry Electricity Department officials, Power Grid Corporation of India Limited officials, and my students UG, PG as well as the research scholars who have done an excellent job to carry out and analyze the persistent data in the case of our real-time implementation at the Power Grid here. Thank you very much. Right. So like this, I'm closing here. Right. If you have any questions also, I'm happy to answer here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Participant have any doubts or queries, we can unmute and you can ask.
This is the overall view, right? I'm not. I gave only the real-time monitoring and the data collection here. You can work. You can work with the algorithms of your own. No issues at all.
Dear participants, you can ask the questions with our professor, or otherwise you can post questions in the chat box.
Okay, madam. If they communicate, you can communicate it. No issues at all. I will answer in the mail itself. Right?
Okay, sir.
Okay, madam. Okay, madam. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, Dr. Nanadas, sir. It's a very nice presentation, sir.
Yeah.
You focus the topic on smart grid, solar integrated and distribution grid, solar meter operation, and you showed the real view of electricity board. And also we have to show the what are the challenges of solar integration within solar distribution grid. It is towards to the green energy technology. This topic is very apt to this FTP, sir. Because of our coordinator, once again I thank you, sir, for accepting the presentation, this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I am sending the PPT in the mail of our Dr. Maladi. Okay, you can get it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Dear participants, we will close the session here, and then the session 8 will be started at 2:30 p.m. today.
Wait for 2 minutes, ma'am.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
We will participant ask to fill the.
Sure, sir. So stop recording, sir.
Okay, we'll stop the recording.
So participant, those who submitted feedback can leave the session. The next session will start at 2:30 p.m. today.